What's up, everyone? As promised, today I'm going to give vocal care tips for any one of us who uses their voice, but most especially to professional voice users like teachers, singers, yoga instructors, DJs, hosts, call center agents, and the list goes on. I'll also be clarifying some myths that are typically associated with the most common voice care tips. So come on, let's get talking. Heyo! If you're new here, I'm Teacher Kaye and I'm a certified speech language pathologist. If you haven't seen episode 11, I suggest you go back to that first because it'll really put the next bit into perspective. And I'm just gonna snap right into it. So the number one thing to remember about vocal care is you need to keep hydrated. How do we keep hydrated? We can do this by drinking plenty of fluids. There's that usual drink 8 glasses a day, but actually there is no one size fits all with how much water you need to take in a day because that will depend on your height, your build, the activity that you do in a day. For example, do you work out and sweat a lot? If you sweat a lot, you will need water to replace that lost hydration. Do you live where it is too warm? Is your room dry? Is your air conditioning on when you're working throughout the day? Is your air conditioning on when you're sleeping? Is it humid where you are? And so many other things. The important thing to remember is we drink lots of water to keep our vocal folds moist, because when they are not moist, they become stiff and hard, and when they come into contact, and think of two things that are hard that come into contact together, then they could end up injuring each other and there could be friction, as opposed to something that is moist and soft, and when they come together, it'll just be like that analogy of the jello, and they'll kind of just like be jiggling toward each other. So it's safe, no harm done. So now that we've established that water is the best thing for your voice, this is where a lot of the myths come in. So let's play a quick game where I'm going to ask you if it's real or not real. And then just give yourself points for every item that you got correctly. And let's see who scores the most in the comment section later. All right, ready? Let's go. You should drink salabat before singing. Real or not real? The answer is not real. Why? So a lot of salabat is sweetened, and when you sweeten stuff, it could cause stickiness, and your body will produce mucus to remove all that stickiness. And when you have a lot of mucus, that's your phlegm, it could be irritating when you're talking and you feel like you have to clear your throat more often. Also, although ginger has a nice warming sensation, it has anti-inflammatory and antibacterial properties, if you don't prepare it properly, there's tiny fibers in ginger, no matter how small you grate them, that could be an irritant to your throat. Drinking honey lemon is good for your voice. Real or not real? The answer is So medyo nagpadala ba tayo sa Vicks Honey Lemon? Kasi sa totoo naman ang sarap, diba? But okay, here's the two parts about it. Honey is okay in small amounts because it has been known to soothe naturally, but like I said about anything sweet, it could cause mucus production, which could be irritating to the throat. Lemon, on the other hand, as a citrus, is an acid. And this could lead to LPR, which is laryngopharyngeal reflux, or GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, and all the acid flows back from your esophagus and it burns everything that gets in its way, and that's what gives you a feeling of heartburn or very dry, itchy feelings in your throat. And it could be very dangerous for professional voice users to have GERD or LPR and then use their voice even more, because it could really cause a lot of damage to the vocal cords. Drinking water instantly hydrates the vocal folds. Real or not real? The answer is not real. One of the misconceptions that people have is that when they drink water, the water actually touches their vocal cords and keeps them moist. But that's not true, guys. The moment water is in contact with your vocal cords means you are near choking, because the vocal folds also act as a protection from your windpipe. So if you get something wet there, they're supposed to close, and that's what sometimes triggers a cough reflex, so that you remove that water from your windpipe. So no, your water does not touch your vocal cords directly. The only thing that can possibly moisturize your vocal folds directly is steam inhalation. So steam inhalation is a good thing to do before a lot of voice use. Just be careful to take note of the duration of steam inhalation, because excessive heat could cause your throat to dry. The thing about drinking water is that you cannot isolate where your water goes. So it doesn't just go to your vocal cords, it goes to the rest of your body, hydrating the rest of your body first. Consequently, your vocal folds will receive that water later on. So try not to wait until you are thirsty. Drink a little bit all the time, maybe every 30 minutes. Take a sip of water or a gulp or a glass. Side story, I was on tour with the RCS, or the Ryan Kaye Singers, and for some reason, there was this weird rumor that went around among our producers in the US. And every time we got to our dressing rooms, there would be green apples and honey. And I think someone said that we requested it. No, we don't request for any particular thing except feed us well. But I've talked about honey already, but what about green apples? So the next is, eating fruits is good for your vocal health. Real or not real? The answer is ding, 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 real. A good way to stay hydrated is to also include a lot of fruits and vegetables in your diet. And that ensures that you have plenty of moisture from those foods to stay hydrated. The Chinese herbal Bei Pak Hua is an instant sore throat medicine. Real or not real? The answer is not real. Bei Pak Hua has a nice cooling sensation that it gives. It makes you feel like you're so much better already, but that's also because it has numbing anesthetic ingredients that make you think that, oh, the pain is all gone, so that means I am completely better, which is actually dangerous when there is already something wrong with your throat or your vocal cords. That's because you thinking that it's okay will make you keep using it, which is overusing and now abusing your vocal cords, and it could lead to more irreversible damage. Also, in 2006, they found traces of formaldehyde, the stuff that they use for antiseptic in laboratories and in dissection. So can you just imagine ingesting that? So those items were recalled, and I just never bought into it ever since. Now that age-old question of, is cold water bad for you? I'm going to look at it from two perspectives. Okay, so the first perspective is physiologically, muscles react to cold by contracting. And when something is contracted, it becomes more stiff. And when something is more stiff, then it is not very pliable, meaning the range of motion becomes affected. That is why you warm up before you work out. And in the same way, we need to warm up before we are gearing up for voice use. Like I said, the body of our vocal cords is a muscle. So with that in mind, cold water can cause your muscle to become a little bit harder to control. That temperature just passing through your throat could still have an effect on the muscles of your vocal cords. And that goes the same with singing somewhere that's extremely cold. I mean, that cold is not in direct contact with my vocal cords, but the temperature, the climate that I am in still affects my vocal cords. The other way of looking at it is functionality, because I do know a lot of singers that are unaffected by cold drinks. So what it really boils down to is, if you take a cold drink and observe that it does have an effect on you, you're better off sticking to lukewarm water. Lukewarm water is probably the best and the safest to consume with regard to vocal use. Coffee and alcohol are bad for your vocal cords. Real or not real? The answer is real, sadly. Alcohol consumption, you know this, that's why people get hangovers when they drink, is because they become dehydrated when they consume alcohol. This is the same with caffeine. So coffee consumption, how much coffee you drink in a day affects your hydration. If you feel like you need to have that cup of coffee, just make sure to supplement that by drinking an extra amount of water to kind of counter the caffeine. Just a funny story. It's not actually funny. When I was living through it, I went on like 6 to 7 month tours with my university choir, UP Concert Chorus, when I was in college. And I understood that, yes, we sang almost every day, sometimes 3 engagements in a day. And I thought that I was getting exhausted and just vocally fatigued from our schedule and sometimes lack of sleep, which I'll get to later. But what I didn't understand was that, especially in Europe, we had wine every night. It was either, if we were in Italy, it would be wine. If we were in Germany, it would be schnapps. So there was some sort of alcohol consumption every single night. And then I didn't understand it then that was causing my hoarseness. And it took a toll on me, all that misunderstanding. And when I came home from that tour, I got my very first vocal cord polyp. That's why you need to take care of your voice. That's why we need to take care of our bodies, because I have recovered from that. It wasn't until I took up SLP that I really had a very good understanding of my voice. And by then it was too late. I had gone through a vocal cord polyp and a vocal cord cyst. I have modified my lifestyle to work around it. And it's not such an easy thing to have as a voice user for all of the things in my life. One way for me to check if I'm hydrated before I do any vocal activity is to pee. Yes, you heard me right. I don't know if you've ever heard of this phrase. If you want to sing clear, you need to pee clear. What does this mean? You know how when you pee, your urine is usually yellowish in color, and that's because those are all the excess stuff that we need to flush out of our bodies. But that also indicates that we don't have enough water in our system to really have flushed it all out already. What I do is I check if my pee is, if not entirely clear, but not like a concentrated yellow, because that means that you're not drinking enough. So remember, if you want to sing or speak well, you have to pee clear. So aside from water, the only 2 things that I use when I really direly need some relief from a sore throat are Camilo-san throat spray, which cuts through my phlegm and gives me temporary relief, and throat coat tea. I love that herbal tea. It is safe and it is soothing. Number 2, total body wellness. Smoking is a no-no. Smoking is bad because it affects your lungs. And of course, the thing that supplies us with the air to produce speech sounds is our lungs. So lung care is super important. Smoking also causes inflammations, can cause vocal cord polyps, and is a big risk factor for lung and laryngeal cancers. Other things that affect the health of our respiration or our lungs is getting good sleep every night. When you are well rested, it doesn't feel like a chore to breathe properly. Trying to get some sort of exercise or activity into your schedules or your routines, because the endurance will really help your lungs be able to cope with different kinds of situations. Also, healthier lungs means more breath control. More breath control means you can play with your voice a lot more. For example, making your voice louder without it being harder or harsher. For those in prolonged sitting positions for their work from home meetings, always remember to keep a good upright posture, because slouching positions or anything that causes obstruction to your airflow will make it harder to produce a sound easily. And there are just viruses that float around that directly affect your vocal cords. Have you ever gotten sick where your colds and cough weren't actually that bad, but you just couldn't produce any sounds? Other viruses cause the inflammations of your larynx, and that is what is called laryngitis. That means that the virus attacked your vocal cords, and it probably compromised the way that they could and could not move, and left you with no voice. So when this happens, when you feel like you are hoarse or you are sick, number 3, don't abuse, misuse, or overuse. Overuse is excessively talking, singing for prolonged periods, teaching for prolonged periods. Misuse is whispering like this. Okay, that's painful. Or trying to sing high notes when that's not your body's natural range. And abuse is when you already know that you're tired, you already know that something is painful, and you still keep on using your voice. Don't force talking. Give your voice a rest. At my worst condition, I had to go on complete total vocal rest for a month. And that meant I carried a whiteboard around with me, and I communicated by writing things that I couldn't gesture in conversation. But it was so essential in my recovery. So don't let it get to the need to be quiet for a month. At the onset of any hoarseness or breathiness or just feeling of fatigue, rest. So even throughout the day, after, let's say, a 1 to 2 hour meeting on a video conference, take a vocal nap after that. If it is not absolutely necessary to use your voice, don't talk at all. So that means using voice includes laughing loud, or belabored whispering, because that can cause even more damage to your vocal cords. In choir, we had this acronym SYV, and that means save your voice. The moment you feel tired, then you need to SYV. Lastly, use amplification. So when you've tried all of the tips and you still feel like, oh, but I still get so tired when I hold meetings, there's no shame in seeking amplification. So when I used to teach communication to huge classes of about 20 to 30 people, I really requested my employer to provide me with a Britney Spears microphone. Well, I didn't say Britney Spears microphone, but I really requested for a microphone that I could use when I was walking around the training room. And that helped me so much not to try to overcompensate for making my voice heard to the very back of the room. I suggest investing in tools that will help alleviate your vocal exertions. I hope those things helped. And after all of this, if pain still persists, go see an ENT or an ear, nose, throat doctor, or if you are a professional voice user and if you're curious of what the condition is of your vocal cords, you may want to see a voice specialist. I have some fact sheets that I'll be uploading onto my blog, and you can download it off there and make your copies. And these are courtesy of the Center for Voice and Swallowing of the Medical City. And also, all of my facts have been approved by my personal voice doctor, Clarissa Fortuna. I love her. She's been taking care of me for over 14 years. And I'm so happy to have worked with her somehow on this episode. So what about you guys? How did you do on our mini game? How many points did you get? Share if you got everything correct or how many you got correct. What other vocal care tips do you know of? Do you have any questions? Hit me up on my Facebook and Instagram at Teacher Kaye Talks. And that's all. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Take care. Take care. Love ya. Happy talking.